In 1991, a geologist from Boston University stood in front of the Great Sphinx of Giza and made a claim that nearly destroyed his career. He said the erosion patterns on the Sphinx weren't carved by Egyptian wind. They were carved by rainfall. And the last time it rained heavily enough in that part of Egypt to carve stone like that was 7,000 years before any pharaoh was born. If this geologist was right, the Sphinx wasn't built by Khafre in 2500 BC. It was built by someone we have no historical record of, a civilization that came before recorded history, a culture so completely lost that we don't even have a name for them. His career survived. His theory did not. Mainstream Egyptology rejected it within months. But here's what's strange. In the 30 years since, every test, every scan, every forensic analysis has only made the case stronger. In this video, I'm going to show you 6 things about the Great Sphinx of Giza that the official story can't explain. A submerged chamber, 30 meters underground that nobody can drain. A network of sealed tunnels under the Giza Plateau. A face that forensic experts say doesn't match its supposed builder. And a body of evidence that suggests the Sphinx is the oldest sealed structure on Earth. For the next 22 minutes, you're going to see why the most famous monument in human history might also be the most misunderstood. Let's start with what the official story says. The Great Sphinx of Giza is carved from a single block of limestone. It stands 20 meters tall at about the height of a 7-story building. It stretches 73 meters long, longer than a basketball court. And according to mainstream Egyptology, it was carved around 2500 BC by order of the pharaoh Khafre, son of Khufu, who built the Great Pyramid right behind it. Khafre wanted a monument to immortalize his rule. So his workers carved a lion-bodied guardian with the pharaoh's own face and placed it at the entrance to the Giza necropolis. That's the story you learned in school. That's the story written on the museum plaques. That's the story Egyptologists have defended for over a century. There's just one problem. The story doesn't account for what's been found inside the Sphinx, underneath it, around it, and on top of it. 6 things, specifically. Each one impossible to reconcile with the official timeline. Each one suggesting that what we call the Sphinx is actually only the visible piece of something much larger, much older, and far more deliberately hidden than mainstream history is willing to admit. Counting down from number 6. Number 6. The Osiris Shaft. In 1933, the Egyptian archaeologist Selim Hassan was excavating the causeway that connects the Sphinx to the second pyramid of Giza. He was looking for traces of the ancient road that ceremonial processions would have used. What he found instead was a hole, a vertical shaft cut straight down into the limestone bedrock, 6 meters in diameter, and initially, no visible bottom. Hassan ordered the shaft cleared. His workers descended on ropes. 12 meters down, they hit a small chamber, empty. Hassan was disappointed, but then he noticed something at the chamber floor. A second shaft, going deeper. He cleared the second shaft. 23 meters from the surface, they hit another chamber. This one contained the remains of stone pillars and what appeared to be an empty sarcophagus. Hassan was getting excited. 2 chambers, stacked like floors of a building deep in the Giza bedrock. This was something nobody knew existed. And then, at the bottom of the second chamber, he found a third shaft. This one was different. The walls were smoother, more carefully cut. And at the bottom of this shaft, 30 meters below the desert floor, was water. A chamber, completely submerged. Hassan tried to pump it dry. He pumped for 4 years. The water refused to recede. Through the clear groundwater, his team could make out what was down there. 4 massive granite pillars arranged in a square. In the center, a large stone sarcophagus. The whole structure was nearly intact. sealed in groundwater that had probably been there for thousands of years. Hassan published his findings. The structure became known as the Osiris Shaft, named for the Egyptian god of the dead, who according to mythology was buried in a watery underworld beneath the desert. But here's what makes the Osiris Shaft a mystery that won't go away. The granite used for those 4 submerged pillars was quarried hundreds of kilometers south at Aswan. Moving granite that distance, lowering it 30 meters into a bedrock shaft, and assembling it into a chamber that nobody was meant to ever see, is an engineering feat that even modern construction companies would hesitate to attempt. And nobody, not a single Egyptian inscription, not a single record from the Old Kingdom, the Middle Kingdom, or the New Kingdom, ever mentions building it. The Osiris Shaft was sealed deliberately and forgotten so completely that even the priests who served Khafre's pyramid 2 centuries later didn't know it existed. Whoever buried whatever is in that submerged sarcophagus did not want it found. And we still haven't found out what it is. Number 5. The Underground City. A few years after Hassan discovered the Osiris Shaft, he made a second announcement that made headlines around the world. He claimed, based on his own excavations, that the Giza Plateau was not just a collection of monuments. It was a city. Not a city built on top of the plateau, a city built underneath it. According to Hassan's reports, his team had begun mapping a network of underground tunnels and chambers radiating outward from the Sphinx. The tunnels connected the Sphinx to the 3 pyramids. They connected to underground temples. They connected to what Hassan described as residential quarters, small rooms with stone benches, almost like ancient apartments for priests or workers. For a few weeks in 1936, this was front-page news. National Geographic, the New York Times, the London Times, all reported that a vast underground complex had been discovered under the Sphinx. Then, suddenly, the story stopped. The Egyptian Antiquities Service ordered Hassan's excavations halted. New permits were denied. The tunnel system was sealed. Hassan's later books made only brief references to areas of further study, but provided no detailed maps. For decades, the underground city was treated as either a myth, a misunderstanding, or one researcher's wishful interpretation. Then in 2008, a team from the National Research Institute of Astronomy and Geophysics in Cairo used ground-penetrating radar to scan the Giza Plateau. They were looking for unrelated geological data. What they found instead was a grid, cavities, voids, linear structures, hundreds of them, arranged in patterns that no natural geological process could explain, stretching from beneath the Sphinx, radiating outward toward all 3 pyramids, extending hundreds of meters in every direction. Salim Hassan, it turned out, had not been making things up. He had been telling the truth 70 years before anyone was willing to confirm it. The radar scans have been repeated multiple times since 2008, with the same results. The cavities are real. The grid is real. And whatever is down there has not been opened in modern times. The Egyptian government has not authorized excavation of any of it. Why? That's a question nobody in authority will answer on the record. But there's a hypothesis circulating among archaeologists who don't have to worry about losing their permits. The hypothesis is this: what's beneath the Giza Plateau is not Egyptian, and opening it would force Egypt to admit that its most famous monuments belong to a civilization that has no place in the official version of human history. Number 4, the vertical shafts inside the Sphinx. The Sphinx is supposed to be a solid statue, one enormous limestone lion carved as a single piece from the bedrock of the Giza Plateau, with no interior cavities except maybe a small crawl space for ancient maintenance. That's what everyone believed for 2,000 years. It is now known to be wrong. In 1991, a team from Florida State University, led by Thomas DeBecke, conducted seismic scans of the Sphinx body. They were searching for evidence of internal weathering, natural cracks and voids caused by water seepage over centuries. They found weathering. They also found things that weren't supposed to be there. The scans revealed 3 distinct cavities inside the Sphinx body, not weathering patterns, not natural cracks. Rectangular voids, chambers, positioned in specific locations. One under the left front paw, one in the front of the chest, one under the rump of the lion body. Each cavity was connected to vertical shafts that descended into the bedrock beneath the Sphinx. The team's report was clear. These are not natural geological features. These are deliberately constructed spaces, carved into the Sphinx by whoever built it. In 2009, the Egyptian Supreme Council of Antiquities authorized a follow-up scan using modern muon tomography, the same technology that found the hidden chamber inside the Great Pyramid in 2017. The 2009 scan confirmed the 1991 findings and added detail. The chamber under the left paw is approximately 5 by 3 meters. The chest chamber is smaller but contains what scan readings interpret as metallic objects. No excavation has ever been authorized to access any of these chambers. This is not a permit problem. It is a policy decision. The Egyptian authorities have made clear that the Sphinx body is not to be drilled, scanned with anything more invasive than ground-penetrating radar, or in any way physically opened. The official reason? Preservation of a fragile limestone monument. The unofficial reason? Debated, suspicious, and unverifiable. But whatever is inside those 3 chambers and at the bottom of those vertical shafts has been waiting there, undisturbed, for at least 4,500 years. Maybe longer. Number 3. The hole on the head. If you look at high-resolution photographs of the Sphinx from directly above, you will see something most tourist guidebooks don't mention. There is a hole, a rectangular shaft cut into the top of the Sphinx's head. The dimensions are precise, 1.8 meters long, half a meter wide, cut clean through the limestone of the headdress. Nobody knows when this hole was made. Nobody knows why it was made. And nobody can agree on what it leads to. The conventional theories are all unsatisfying. Some Egyptologists suggest the hole was for a giant standard or decorative plume that mounted to the headdress for ceremonial purposes. Others propose it was a quarryman's mistake, later widened by treasure hunters. A few have suggested it was a rainwater drain. None of these theories explain why the hole descends. In 2004, a French research team conducted electromagnetic tomography on the Sphinx's head. They mapped the depth of the rectangular hole. It is not a shallow socket. It is not a drain. It is a shaft. It descends 9 meters straight down into the head and neck of the Sphinx. At its bottom, the scan revealed what appears to be a small chamber, with possible side passages branching off in 2 directions. The hole on the head connects to something inside. What that something is, nobody has been allowed to find out. The same Egyptian government policy that prevents drilling the body chambers also prevents lowering cameras into the head shaft. The official position is that the head is too fragile and that any modern intervention risks structural damage. Critics of that position note that the Sphinx has survived seismic activity, sandstorms, and 4,000 years of weather without structural damage. They argue the fragility excuse is convenient. What we know for certain is this: someone, at some point, and we don't know when, cut a precise rectangular shaft into the top of the Sphinx's head. That shaft descends to a chamber, and whoever built the chamber went to extraordinary effort to make sure it could not be entered casually. Modern technology could resolve the question in a week. Modern policy ensures it never will. Number 2. The face that doesn't match. Frank Domingo spent 30 years as the senior forensic artist for the New York Police Department. His job was to reconstruct faces, from bones, from witness descriptions, from grainy security footage. He was trained to recognize the distinctive features that distinguish one human face from another. In 1993, Domingo was invited to apply his forensic skills to an unusual subject, the Great Sphinx of Giza. The question he was asked to answer was this: does the face of the Sphinx match the face of Pharaoh Khafre? Because if it does, mainstream Egyptology is right. Khafre commissioned the Sphinx around 2500 BC, and the face is his own. There are several confirmed statues of Khafre in museums around the world. Domingo studied them in detail: the bone structure, the jaw angle, the brow ridge, the cheekbone width, the nose proportions. Then he studied the Sphinx face. His conclusion was unambiguous. The two faces did not belong to the same person. The Sphinx face has a wider jaw, a different brow ridge, and significantly different cheekbone proportions compared to all confirmed images of Khafre. The bone structure is not even close. According to Domingo, these are the faces of two completely different individuals, separated possibly by hundreds or thousands of years. The mainstream Egyptological response was to question Domingo's methodology. But forensic anthropology is not a soft science. It is the same method used to identify victims in criminal investigations. If Domingo says two faces don't match, two faces don't match. So whose face is on the Sphinx? Some researchers have suggested it resembles the face of Khufu, Khafre's father, but the few confirmed images of Khufu don't quite match either. Others have proposed it is a generic guardian face, never intended to represent any specific pharaoh. And a few, the boldest ones, have suggested the face was originally something else entirely, something that was recarved by later Egyptians into what we see today. Because here is the strange detail: the head of the Sphinx, relative to the body, is undersized by a lot. The body proportions follow lion anatomy faithfully, but the head is roughly a third smaller than it should be. The leading hypothesis is that the head was originally larger, possibly the head of a lion or jackal that matched the body, and was recarved by a later pharaoh into the human face we see today. The recarving would explain the small head, the erosion difference between head and body, and the face that doesn't match any known pharaoh. If true, the Sphinx is older than the face, and the face is younger than the Sphinx. How much older? That brings us to the most controversial mystery on this list. Number 1, the water erosion. Robert Schoch is a geologist, not an archaeologist, not an Egyptologist, a geologist, trained at Yale, employed by Boston University with expertise in erosion patterns and rock weathering. In 1990, he was invited by an independent Egyptology researcher to examine the erosion patterns on the Sphinx and the walls of the enclosure that surrounds it. Schoch's analysis was published in 1992. It triggered one of the biggest controversies in modern archaeology. His findings, in summary: the erosion patterns on the Sphinx and its enclosure walls were caused predominantly by water, specifically by sustained heavy rainfall, falling vertically onto exposed limestone over a period of centuries. This was inconvenient, because if Schoch was right, the implications were severe. Egypt's climate today is desert. Egypt's climate during the entire span of pharaonic history, from the Old Kingdom through Cleopatra, was also desert. The last time Egypt experienced the kind of heavy, sustained rainfall that could carve vertical channels into limestone was during a wet period that ended approximately 7000 BC. 7000 BC, 4,500 years before Khafre, 3,000 years before Egypt was even unified as a civilization. If Schoch's geological analysis is correct, the Sphinx was already standing and already weathering before the first dynastic Egyptian was born. The mainstream Egyptological reaction was immediate and hostile. Shock was attacked as a non-specialist meddling in archaeology. His methodology was questioned. His credibility was attacked. Egyptologists insisted that the erosion was caused by wind, sand, and groundwater seepage, not rainfall. Shock did not back down. He published peer-reviewed papers in geology journals. He invited other geologists to examine the site. Multiple geological experts have since confirmed his analysis. The erosion patterns are consistent with rainfall, not wind. The depth and shape of the channels match no other identified erosion mechanism in the region. In the 30 years since, Shoka's theory has only gained scientific support among geologists, while Egyptologists have largely refused to engage with the geological evidence at all. Which leaves us with an extraordinary conclusion. The Great Sphinx is older than Egypt. Not older by a few centuries, older by thousands of years. Possibly carved by a civilization that existed during the wet period of the Sahara, a civilization that left no written records, no surviving cities, and almost no archaeological trace, except perhaps the largest stone sculpture ever made. What this means. Take all 6 mysteries together. The Osiris Shaft with its submerged sarcophagus, the underground city detected by ground-penetrating radar, the vertical chambers inside the Sphinx body, the sealed shaft inside the head, the face that doesn't match its supposed builder, and the water erosion that predates Egypt by thousands of years. Each individual mystery has its skeptics and its alternative explanations, but 6 unexplained anomalies, all centered on the same monument, all pointing in the same direction, is no longer a coincidence. It is a pattern. The pattern suggests that the Sphinx was built by people we know nothing about, that it was built thousands of years before Khafre, possibly during the last green period of North Africa, when the Sahara was savanna and rainfall was abundant, that whoever built it constructed a complex of underground chambers, tunnels, and shafts around and beneath it, and that the original purpose of the monument, and the meaning of whatever lies sealed in those chambers, was so important to its builders that they engineered the whole thing to outlast civilizations. The Egyptians who came later, Khafre, Khufu, the dynasties, found the Sphinx. They didn't build it. They modified it. They recarved its face. They built pyramids next to it. They incorporated it into their own religious framework, and they probably knew, on some level, what it really was. But that knowledge was lost. The original builders disappeared, the chambers were sealed, the desert covered the tunnels, and history forgot. For now, the Sphinx still watches. 30 meters below it, a sarcophagus sits in clear water that nobody has been able to pump out for 90 years. Inside its body, 3 sealed chambers contain objects that no modern scan can identify. On top of its head, a 9-meter shaft ascends to a chamber that has not been opened in 12,000 years. If you found this video interesting and you want me to keep investigating the engineering and mysteries that mainstream history doesn't want to discuss, subscribe and ring the bell. I'm building a library of every ancient monument that doesn't fit the official timeline. Next video, we leave the past. We travel forward into the future, to the most expensive mega project in human history. A $500 billion city being built right now in the desert of Saudi Arabia. A project that promises to revolutionize how humans live and is already 6 years into construction, showing signs of becoming the most spectacular engineering failure of our generation. It's called NEOM, and you won't want to miss it.